All right, let's now get some legal analysis. Then on this, Advocate Romeo Nthambeleni gives us a legal perspective on the summon of the President Cyril Ramphosa to SCOPA to explain what he knows about the abuse of state funds for party political campaigns. Advocate, a very good afternoon to you. Thanks very much for joining us here on SABC News, sir.
Good afternoon, Florence and the viewers.
Let's talk about legally. I mean, what options in this case does the President have if perhaps he is found wanting by SCOPA? Where would he be able to maneuver?
Yeah, thank you very much, Flo. I think let's start by saying it's a bit unprecedented how the situation unfolded, and hence there was a request for a withdrawal of the letter, which was not done. And there was emphasis that this is done to protect the public funds. So basically what is required to happen now is that SCOPA must then ask the President to actually give his certain reasons in writing about what he knows about the information that was leaked outside in public, where he made those remarks. Yeah. And what is important, Flo, is summons are a last resort. You don't start with the summons. You are starting at the end. You have to start at the beginning by giving him an opportunity and an audience to reply. And then it will necessitate whether there is a need for him to appear before SCOPA to give a further explanation.
Yeah, I mean, this can't just be about spinning. I mean, when I speak to political analysts, we will talk about, what's likely to be said by the President or what's likely to be said by his representatives when it comes to spinning what could have happened or what came out of this audio recording. But this could be self-incriminating, or whatever he says to SCOPA, and it could be a legal challenge. It could be an issue in that regard. Talk to us about, what are the possibilities here, particularly when it comes to this particular audio. I mean, it does seem a little bit self-explanatory when you hear it, but are there problems or a risk, perhaps, of the President, self-incriminating, if I could put it that way, legally?
Yeah, no, thank you, Flo. I think you're quite right to say that you cannot spin your way out of what was said from your mouth. And then the most important thing, legally speaking, is the context of how the communication was and the information which is required. Let's not forget that SCOPA works in line with the other Chapter 9 institutions, which is in this instance the Auditor General relating to funds. So that information on its own is not enough to actually bring any conviction against any person whatsoever. But the knowledge of the information in terms of the requirement of the Constitution is important for a president as a constitutional being and as a guardian of the Constitution. And we have seen, from the judgment of the Constitutional Court, the responsibility that lies with the president, with the knowledge of information. But perhaps this is not the first time, Flo, where we have experienced a president making a statement saying that he has got knowledge of criminality that prevailed under his watch. So the main question is that in this instance, are we going to see it being followed up and proper consequences following out of that statement that has been made? But on its own, the statement carries no weight whatsoever without it being substantiated by proper evidence that will be tested in relation to those funds and how those public funds were used. And hence we're saying it's important that SCOPA does a proper investigation within the parliamentary framework to make sure that the necessary information is required to actually be shared with other state organizations. And there was a mention of the zonal commissions as well, and as well as the Office of Public.
That's where I want to go. In fact, Advocate, you're talking about the fact that the recording on its own won't necessarily bring any sort of a conviction, and that's fine. But then you also refer to the fact that there's the issue of knowledge that this was possibly happening, that public funds were being used for campaigns, and that knowledge on its own is is quite a problem. This information could have been important and given to the State Capture Commission, and I wonder how that looks, and since we're talking legally, how that looks legally for the president, the fact that he didn't, speak about this, didn't share any sort of information, because then this may lead to uncovering other things. So does this mean that we're sitting with the State Capture report, and we're still expecting part 2 and 3 of this report, that then might actually be incomplete?
No, Flo, you're quite correct. You see, because now if you have a knowledge of something and you don't give it when you're giving evidence under oath, which relates to the information relating to public funds of the state, it might lead to perjury. So I think, from that context, you're quite correct. So it is said that that information has been shared with the State Capture Commission, and let's see how it will respond to that information, because we are aware that the president went and he gave testimony in relation to that. And then if you have knowledge of the information as a constitutional being, you have the responsibility of disclosing that information. And whether it be investigated or not is another question. But that's why what you're saying is important relating to the State Capture Commission as well.
Yeah, no doubt the president wouldn't have wanted this audio out there, and as a result, it was in fact leaked. In your opinion, as someone in the legal field, what's the best way out of this, for the president? I'm sure his team is looking into that right now, but, what's the best way for him to worm himself out of it or maneuver out of this particular situation?
No, let's not give the president free legal advice. Let's allow his lawyers to do a bit of work. I have an answer, but I'm not going to give it to him because there are people that are employed to to do the work. So let them do a bit of work, and they will find some answers of how they're going to resolve the issue.
All right. Thanks very much for giving us your time. So we certainly do appreciate your illegal input here on the show here on SABC News. Thank you, sir.